In our last video, we rode the Norristown High-Speed Line, a strange, unique little train line connecting several Philadelphia suburbs. Now we're in Norristown, and we have to get back to Center City, Philadelphia. Now, if you know anything about this channel, you know that whenever possible, I like to take a different way back than how I got somewhere. Thankfully, that's possible here, by taking the regular regional rail. Specifically, we're riding the Manayunk Norristown Line, or as I like to call it, the Norristown Low Speed Line. Not because it's excessively slow or anything, just because it's the train to Norristown that's not the high-speed line. Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom. I'm at the Norristown Transportation Center in Pennsylvania. Behind me, you see the elevated platform of the Norristown High-Speed Line. That's how I got here. Now we're going back to Center City, Philadelphia on the regional rail, Manayunk Norristown Line. The Manayunk Norristown Line is one of the 13 lines that make up the SEPTA Regional Rail system. At 18 miles or 29 kilometers long, it actually originates not here, but 2 stops earlier at the Norristown Elm Street station. Once trains reach Center City, on weekdays most of them continue to Wawa on the Media Wawa line, while on the weekends they go to Airport instead. The station here opened in the 1930s, and it used to be called DeKalb Street, but in 1989 the Norristown High-Speed Line moved its terminus here, and so it became the Norristown Transportation Center. So on the far side are tracks that go to Norristown Main Street and Elm Street, and then on my track are the trains that go to Center City, Philadelphia. Trains run about once an hour. Here comes our train, a Silverliner IV built in the 1970s. I filmed this video in June when there weren't really any issues, but today these trains are the reason for major service disruptions on SEPTA Regional Rail. Old as they are, these trains have been catching on fire a lot recently. It's been happening at a rate that's alarming enough for the Federal Railroad Administration to order SEPTA to carry out thorough inspections of the entire fleet. With 225 cars, Silverliner IVs make up 2/3 of the regional rail fleet. So as a result, many trains have been canceled, the trains that do run are much shorter, and express trains now all run as locals. Our journey to Center City, Philadelphia will take 40 minutes. This train will take us through the communities of Conshohocken, Mequon, and then different neighborhoods of Philadelphia. If you've watched some of my other videos about SEPTA Regional Rail, you'll probably know that today's single unified commuter rail network is actually a combination of 2 former rival systems. On one side, you had the Pennsylvania Railroad. These guys, who among others built the line that we today know as the Northeast Corridor, ran commuter trains out of Suburban Station and 30th Street Station. Meanwhile, the Reading Company ran trains out to Reading Terminal, what today is the Jefferson Station. The Reading Terminal has been converted into a convention center sitting on top of the Reading Terminal Market. When SEPTA was formed, both networks eventually fell under public control, and SEPTA created a tunnel under Center City connecting the 2 networks in 1984, allowing for through service. You can learn more about that by clicking the link above. The Manayunk Norristown Line uses the Norristown branch of the Reading Company, so this used to be a Reading service, and it may seem rather unimportant, or at least not any more important than the other lines in the system, but that wasn't always the case. In fact, this used to be one of the most important lines in the Reading system. It was how you could actually get to Reading. The earliest history of this line goes back to 1832, when the Philadelphia, Germantown, and Norristown Railroad opened a line to Germantown. Today, that is part of the Chestnut Hill East Line. I didn't fully appreciate how old 1832 really is until I realized that it's only 7 years after the Stockton and Darlington opened in England as the first ever public railway to use steam locomotives. Anyway, the railroad initially wanted to build from Germantown to Norristown, but they ended up building a branch to Norristown instead, reaching it in 1835. 190 years ago. Later, the Philadelphia and Reading opened a railway line on the opposite side of the Schuylkill River, connecting Philadelphia with Reading and Pottsville. In 1851, a bridge opened across the river connecting the lines of both railroads. In 1870, the PGN even became part of the Reading Company. Then, in 1903, the old bridge was replaced with the one that exists today. In 1933, the Norristown branch was electrified, but the Reading main line wasn't. For decades, the Reading ran electric commuter trains between Philadelphia and Norristown and diesel trains between Philadelphia and Pottsville, stopping in places like Valley Forge, Phoenixville, and of course, Reading. Interrupting the story really quick to point out that we're at Manayunk Station now, a neighborhood in Philadelphia and a place that we've already been before on the channel. We were here when we rode the Cynwyd Line, a remnant of what was once the Pennsylvania's competing Philly to Reading service. The rise of the automobile after World War II meant that passenger rail service across the country was becoming increasingly unprofitable without public subsidies. For intercity routes, Amtrak was created to take over passenger services. But the Reading considered its routes commuter, so they did not buy into Amtrak. They had already been receiving subsidies from the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, or SEPTA, since it was formed in the 1960s. Well, technically, SEPTA was only subsidizing the route as far as Pottstown, since the rest of the route fell outside of the 5-county district that makes up SEPTA. Yeah, this route had a Pottsville and a Pottstown. Confusing, I know. Service beyond Pottstown had to be funded by the state, the feds, or those other counties that were outside of the SEPTA jurisdiction, which it was until 1981. By that point, the Reading had gone bankrupt and SEPTA was now paying Conrail to run the diesel services. But in 1981, both the state and the non-SEPTA counties refused to fund the service. So on July 1st, the diesel service was cut to Pottstown, remaining inside SEPTA's jurisdiction, and then on July 26th, it was cut altogether. See, some people blame the 1984 opening of the Center City Commuter Connection, the tunnel that unites the system, as the reason for some communities to lose diesel rail service. Looking at the history of the Norristown Line, I don't think that that's an entirely fair assessment. It was certainly a contributing factor, but as we saw with service to Reading, issues like old trains and fights over subsidies, they also contributed to the end of service beyond electrified territory. I just don't know if SEPTA hadn't built the tunnel or if they had allowed diesel trains in the tunnel, that alone would have saved the train service to Reading, for example. However, the state is pretty eager to return train service to Reading, so we shall see what happens with that. As for the low-speed line nickname that I give this line, it's actually kind of ironic because now with a top speed of 60 miles per hour, the Norristown low-speed line is technically 5 miles per hour faster than the Norristown high-speed line.
This is cool. It's just talking about SEPTA. I wonder if it's because of the proposed cuts. All right, I have made it to Jefferson Station on the Center City Connector, a very interesting piece of infrastructure that has its own Trains Are Awesome video, so check that out after this one. That was a nice short ride on the Manayunk Norristown Line. I like how it goes along the river, a bit of history. It pairs very well with the trip on the Norristown high-speed line. The transfers are decent, so if you're out doing that, might as well take the Norristown line back like I did. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Trains Are Awesome, and we'll see you next time.